Okay, so that brings us to the last problem, problem 7, the other one that we did not go through. And this is equally as important because this is also a join question, understanding this real fundamental concept of joining, except in this case, I didn't give you the SQL. Up here, I gave you the SQL for a join and said what would the result be. And in this case, I was asking you to write the query, okay, to actually do the joining. So let's look through this and really understand this. So it says you want to make a list of all the dates that the various facilities are going to be used. So that makes sense, right? If we're actually using this big system for reserving different facilities like the basketball arena and the football stadium and so on and so forth for events, we might want to look in. This would be a real thing we'd want to do and just run a query to say, show me all the dates that all the facilities are actually being used. So we want something that kind of looks like this. It shows us all the facilities and which dates they have events. Okay, a very common thing we'd want to do. So we could look at that and see, if somebody wants to schedule a new event and they say, I want to schedule the football stadium on October 25th, we can run this query and say, oh, sorry, football stadium's already scheduled on that date. Or maybe we just want to print it out for whatever reason or look at this. Okay, some reason we want to find out all the dates that all the facilities are being used. Okay, so if we actually look at the tables where this data is coming from, okay, it's coming from the event request table. So if we look at that, okay, again, this is this table where it's actually showing these events, okay, that are asking for some facility, there's the facility number, to be reserved. This is the date that the event was requested, but here's the important thing. What date is that event going to be held? So this, again, this first row, as I said in the problem, is saying going to have some event that's being held on October 25th in the football stadium. And we even have this status column that says, okay, so somebody requested to reserve that football stadium for that date. Okay, that's been approved. So that's actually on the schedule. Okay, this one here is making another request for the football stadium on a different date. Okay, but it's hasn't been approved yet. It's pending. We're waiting to decide. This one was denied, so this one will not be scheduled. Okay, so that's what these event request table is, and obviously this FACNO column is once again referencing that facility table. So we actually, instead of just going F101, which one is that? We just go, oh, F101, let's look up here. That's the basketball arena. Okay, so we've got a bunch of different requests people have made to reserve football stadium and the basketball arena. Some of them have been approved, some of them have been denied. Okay, and this is the date that they're actually wanting to hold the event, and obviously you have some more information about the cost and how many people are going to be there and so on and so forth. So that's what the question is all about, and I'm wanting to list which of these correspond with which of these dates. So the facility name, which facility names go with which of these different dates on my list. So let's think about how we would do that. Go down here. So first part, the select part, should be pretty easy because that's just saying, once again, which columns do I want? And I pretty much gave you that right here in the result. So this has to be fac name, comma, date held, right? Those two rows, or so, excuse me, those two columns. I'm wanting to get information from right there, and I want to get information from right there. Okay, so that's the starting point. And then I want to say, what tables do I want to get them from? Well, I want to get them from those two tables, the event request and the facility. So facility event request. And again, when you're typing these in, try to match the case. Some systems, in some cases, there's different places where it doesn't match, or it doesn't care. Other systems do care more often, and there are some circumstances where you have to match. So if you're doing a search for a specific thing in a database, you definitely have to match the case. So in general, it's just best to try to match case on everything. So if a table is capitalized, okay, like up here, if it's a capitalized facility table, make sure you actually capitalize. And I'll try to be careful about that too. But in general, just try to do that, because then you won't run into any problems. So those are the two tables that we're matching on. So then what goes in the where? Well, The where is basically saying we have to telling the database how to match those two tables again. So which columns have to match up. So it's just like we talked about. So what we're saying is, if we look up at those two tables, the thing that helps join the two tables together, the columns that are in common, is this and this. So that tells us which of these things down here match which of these facilities up here. So now all we have to say is that, oh, only keep the rows where the FACNO matches FACNO between the two tables. So facility FACNO is equal to event request FACNO. So that's what goes down here, where facility.FACNO equals event request.FACNO. So just like we had up above, that's what's actually going to only keep the rows where they actually should be joined together. So if you put that, that would be good enough for the right answer. I did actually, if you really wanted to do this right, I was expecting something else, but I'm not going to take off if you didn't do this. If you think about this table up here and what it means, only the events that have been approved are ones that are actually on the schedule. Ones that are denied are not going to happen. Ones that are pending, we don't know yet. So the other thing you could do is you could actually say and status equals approved, because we don't want to look, if this request was denied for some event on a date in the football stadium, then we don't want that on our schedule, actually showing that that's going to happen on November 23rd. So I would also put on here, if we really wanted to do this the right way, I would put and status equals approved, like that. Okay, but if you didn't do that, I'm not going to worry about that on the quiz, but that would be the real thing to do if you only wanted to get the events that are actually going to happen. We know are going to happen. So the other thing I want to point out, so that would be the answer. Okay, the other thing I wanted to point out is that there is the alternative syntax for how you can join tables together. So one of them that you should know about is just like this, where we put the actual matching in the where clause. And we just talked about why that makes sense, what that's actually telling the database to do. But then we have the alternative syntax that some of you used, and that's totally fine in this case. And that's where you can use the inner join in the from portion. So it's basically just taking this part down here that's saying how to match the two tables together, which columns to match them on, and putting it up in the from portion. So that's where I can actually say, instead of putting this down here, I can actually say, I'm going to put it up here. Well, here, I'll just start it. Okay, so if you use that syntax, you have to say facility inner join event request. So this is just being a little bit more explicit about doing a join, even though it's doing the same thing, just writing it out. And then when you do that, you still have to tell it, well, which column matches which column. So if I just left it there and didn't tell it how does it match up, okay, it's not quite going to work. I need to say on which columns, and that's this on, and that's where I now put this. So I'll cut. Okay, it's getting a little messy here. See if I can make this. There we go. So this is the other way you could say it. You can say select these two columns from facility inner join event request. So these are the two tables we're going to join. How are we going to join them, or which columns are we going to join them on? We're going to join them on this column equals this column. So same information, you just move it up and use it with the inner join. So again, it's unfortunate there are two different ways to do the same things, but you will see both of these in the real world, so you need to be familiar with both of these. When you wrote this query, either way is fine, but you certainly need to be able to read either one of these. And then I wouldn't need this and down here, because now we've moved the matching portion up into the from, so we don't need to do an and. We just put status equals approved down here. So that's totally fine as well. So either one of those is fine.